Okay, everybody. Just getting everything published and we'll be good to go in a second here. Audio's working. Good. Okay, now I can see comments. Awesome. Okay, so it might be a weird question that I stated. Let's get a little closer here. The title of this live is, what's your price of admission? And this is coming to me really clearly today. How to preface it. So I've lived my whole entire life with an open heart, and I just let people in freely with it and gave unconditional love. There's probably been times since I started that I eventually had to revert to conditional love because I thought I needed to be protected, etc. But what's the best way to describe it? The best way to describe it would be I make an invitation of unconditional love into my world to everybody I meet. And it brings a lot of women into my life. And it's something that's not typical, not normal. I've been given a lot of labels, open-hearted or heart on his sleeve or whatever. And for a long time in my life, I thought that was a bad thing. But as I move forward more and more and more, it wasn't a bad thing. It was my invitation to another, especially women, to come to the same level of openness, to come to the same level of vulnerability, to open their heart and interact from a place of not protection, like going into a relationship with someone and you're kind of like, oh, are you okay? Are you safe? Oh, should I stick my head out? Oh, what do I want to tell another person? And it's the insanity of conditional love. It's the insanity of being hurt over and over and over again. And I know a lot of women, when they approach, I'm a curiosity. They don't want to approach fully and openly, but they really like the concept and they really like to observe it from a distance and they like to touch a little bit. It also looks like a smorgasbord of love, giving freely and standing openly. They'd come and kind of just peck and help themselves on the pieces that they liked. They'd go really vulnerable, or I'd love to get me really vulnerable talking about my stuff, but when it came to talking about their stuff, it was like, oh, okay, you're getting a little too close, or, oh, this isn't acceptable, where are your boundaries, all this kind of thing, where it's just confusing as hell. And to sit here and I judged myself and I was told a lot of things by those people that weren't willing to be vulnerable, to just smash me or scare me away or traumatize me so I'd stop, so that they didn't have to go inside and start to understand why they weren't being the same way. And it kind of comes back to what I'm talking about. Hello, Neville and Zahana. Thank you for joining. It kind of goes back. Okay, so in my world, there's nothing but unconditional love. And how do you make an invitation to someone about unconditional love? Like, hey, I'll tell you anything about me. I'd love to hear anything about you. Share trauma, share whatever. I don't want to do it to hurt you or whatever, but I'll lead and I'll tell you about it. And oh, fuck, did I feel like sucked dry after a while. I could probably list 1,000 different women that have connected with me in some way, talked on Facebook, asked about my life and want me to go vulnerable and feel it and soak it up. But they didn't pay the price of admission, which I never knew I had to put one on it. But the price of admission is a small boundary. To be open-hearted and be in smorgasbord in this world is just an invitation for the energy vampires of this world, or the people that aren't ready to do their work. But it also can be an invitation for somebody to move forward. And I'm learning more and more and more that I can't just let everybody in if they're not willing to do some work, or they want it to keep it in balance. And this is scary for some people. And it's like, who the fuck are you to start saying stuff like that to make me open? Well, really, I don't want anybody in my life that's not going to be open backwards. So I felt really wounded and hurt and suffering, and why would nobody engage and why would nobody come to this level, that I never asked them. And then I'd sit with this story afterwards and be angry and frustrated and all this kind of stuff. Why people aren't valuing me? Why can't I receive? Why can't they respect me and come to the same level? But I never asked. I just had an expectation, which all of us do. And it's a scary thing, and it's really deep, and it's a lot to ask. But I'm now worthy. Before it was like, oh, my worthiness was beat to hell. So in response to your question, Zahana, so price of admission is a small boundary. Price of admission is self-respect first. So I had a woman, I don't know it all. We've got a few couple friends that kind of overlap or whatever. And it's like, tell me about your life and tell me more about what you do or whatever. And I was just like, why would I do that? I went on her page. She didn't even have a face on her Facebook page. And it was a bunch of memes and other stuff, which I understand. And people are scared and they don't want to get too vulnerable. But I responded and I said, well, how do I know your intention? How do I know who you are if I can't even see your face? So that was a small price of admission. Like knowing your self-worth. Well, it's not like a dollar value on self-worth, but it's kind of like, fuck, why would I keep giving to somebody that doesn't give back? And it's a small self boundary that says, okay, what am I getting fed out of this? Or I would have these beautiful long discussions talking about what I do, my sacred sexuality work, my past, and all this kind of stuff, trying to prove myself or show my worthiness to these women, and they'd milk it up and they'd love it and all that kind of stuff. But at the point when it came like, okay, well, tell me about you, it was like, oh, where do you get off kind of asking that? And it's like, hold on. Before they'd shame me and other stuff, I don't know you well enough or whatever. And it's like, fuck, my price of admission, I just told you about my family life, my sexuality stuff, my all this kind of stuff. If I can't get any more vulnerable than that, what the fuck? So there's a lot of people that just want to close the doors and have armor. Well, my price of admission is you got to match me in vulnerability. And that may be scary for some people, but it's a gift that will give you back 100-fold by meeting me. But to sit there and kind of stand on the outside of the hockey rink while you watch the game and speak so much about how you love hockey or whatever, but never once have you sat on the ice, or you never even know how to skate. Those are the people that are wasting my time. They're wasting their own time to sit here. You're welcome to sit in the bleachers, but the minute you engage, I'm going to get you on the ice. I'm going to get you in the game. And now that expectation is no longer implied. It's like, okay, well, if you want to come and have a talk and hear about my life and see how beautiful it is, my invitation is to you to start to become vulnerable so that you can feel just as good, instead of kind of sitting on the sidelines, playing with yourself, saying, oh, I'm in the game or whatever, and then shame people that try and get you in the game. It's a game that's played in your head that you're not sure about. You really love the light that's here. You really love the vulnerability that's here. You're wanting more for yourself. But if I don't force you to engage, and I'm not saying force, like grab you by the hair or something. I'm saying with my words, or continuing to feed that wish by me just continuing to do it while you're just sitting there kind of going, oh, I'm not sure, oh, I'm too scared or whatever. And a lot of times they'll step away in the moment, but they'll come back later because they knew there was an intention for better. They knew there wasn't, I'm forcing you because you need it, or I'm fixing you or whatever. No, I'm an invitation. I'm a catalyst. It's like, oh, do I want to catch on fire by touching this? Well, I'm already on fire. And if you want to kind of sit here and roast your wieners on it and say how amazing it is, and now I'm kind of that because you got a warm glow on the front of your chest from interacting with a person that's being vulnerable, you aren't being vulnerable. You're lying to yourself. You're prolonging, you're hurting things, you're wasting your and my time. And there's huge amounts of opportunity to get to know me on all these videos because I am wide open. But if you want to engage, That's the price of admission. Matching in vulnerability, talking, returning to me in the same way. I don't need a price. I don't need dollar bills here, but come and engage with me in the same way. If you want to talk about sexuality stuff and it's scary or whatever, we'll talk about it, but like open in those areas. If you want to talk about my life, my past, my parents, my whatever, I'll talk about anything, because nothing's meant to hide. We're all part of one another. We have to grow out of this bullshit of, holy fuck, I don't want to get hurt again. And who do you trust? Well, are you going to trust somebody that shares their heart all the time, cries, says what he means and feels? This is gold to find these people in your life. I'm just an example, but you know other people that are. They're probably light workers. They're probably hiding under their covers most of the time because they don't know how to come out and be vulnerable, and they've always been taken from, and they don't know these really basic rules. What's my price of admission? Hey, I really enjoy meeting you. Pleasure to meet you. Tell me something about yourself first before you ask me to tell you more, because I'm an open book. It's right here and right now on Facebook, and you can watch 1,000 different videos over the last 5 years of my life, because I'm an open book. I'm vulnerability, but nobody sucks me dry. Nobody comes into my life and then doesn't have the responsibility. I had a woman about a month and a half ago, and it was like, oh, I want to do this sacred sexuality work, and I want to go deep with you, and I want to explore. And it was like beautiful. We had a beautiful conversation. And it was like building this plot path and how it was all going to come together. It was all beautiful and happy and whatever. And then the next day it was like, oh, well, let's meet for 2 days maybe, because what we talked about was too much. Well, if you say it in the moment and you meant it in the moment, it's your ego, it's your bullshit that's talking and saying, oh, that maybe is going too fast or whatever. But originally, was it not your heart? Was it not that inner part of you that kind of made that connection and said, wow? And then when I come back and I kind of say, well, geez, I want what we agreed to, not this half version of it, then it's like, oh, this is all yours and it's your trigger and all this kind of stuff. It's happened to me over and over and over again. No more. So I commented back and I said, no, this isn't acceptable. Either you meant what you said in the beginning, or you have some fears now that are coming up that we should really discuss that haven't even been put on the table that is now making you push me away. Like, this is the insanity of the human experience. We go and think afterwards. It's like, oh, what would my mom think? Oh, what would my friends think? Oh, what would society think? What would my religion think? Oh, last time I did this, I got hurt. Fuck, if you go in full vulnerability and leave the door down and can in the moment deal with shit. I don't even like the term boundary, because boundary restricts you. It says you're not going to do this. So you said small boundary or whatever. I don't even like the word boundary, Zahana. I like a gentle reminder, clear communication. It's like, I'm not feeling met right now. Are we going to continue talking for another 2 hours while I wait for you to step up? Or is it like, hey, come on in. Come on in. The fire's nice and warm. You don't have to be freezing out there. Take your jacket off and sit. Because a lot of people just sit out there on the periphery. They love what you're doing, but they're never engaged. Who's going to engage them other than somebody they trust, other than somebody that's already done it, that already has the energy that really excites you? So why do I excite you? Why do I light you up? Why am I sitting here talking about really hard shit and saying that's the only way to get through all this shit? The price of admission is communication. The price of admission is saying, this doesn't feel balanced. I want to receive now. I want to, well, before it was the little boy and little girl saying, oh, I'm really waiting to receive. And if I open my heart and I get hurt again, maybe eventually somebody will like me. Well, fuck no. That little boy, that little girl is coming from a massive wound. And I had it. I still have pieces of it, fully admit it. But I'm at the point right now, and we're going to have a live in Awakening Through Sexuality this afternoon that I really want people to come and see. But it's somebody that's in my life that we're doing that deep level of work. And it's come to opening and finding fucking stuff that I didn't even know I wasn't exposed on yet and was hiding. All because I wanted to have truth. I felt something was off, and I asked some really hard questions, not like, F you, I hate you, or whatever, why the hell, or whatever. That's how it normally goes. It's like, why have we never talked about your divorce? why have we never talked about this? And why do we never talk about that? And why does this feel like a lie, or does that feel like a lie? Because it was true for me and it was building a story. And until I got vulnerable and started to ask, I didn't know what was story and what was real. And it creates this new space for opening, creates this new space for going deeper, new intimacy. And I'm not talking sexual intimacy, I'm talking into me, seeing all of me, seeing the wounded little child, seeing my emotions, seeing that I've got trust issues or whatever, which are all part of my past. Well, how are you ever going to learn to trust if you don't trust yourself? I talked about this in another live. Right now, those prices of admission are, I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting in the moment that I'm not going to sit there like a little puppy on my back, waiting for my tummy to be scratched and just give everything and then be mad about it afterwards because I didn't ask for my tummy to be scratched, or they didn't know what that feeling was or what I was asking for or whatever. But now it's like, hey, I really like it when my tummy's scratched, and I'd talk all night if my tummy was scratched or whatever. And you probably got those things too. It's like, oh, scratch me here, or pull the hairs in the back of my neck a little bit, or whatever. That's the thing that just relaxes your parasympathetic nervous system. You now trust that person naturally, and magic happens. But before, I was just hoping it would show up and getting hurt every time because it didn't, and hurting myself and calling myself bad and judging myself, all because I didn't have a price of admission. And it's not like a dollar value. It's like, match me, meet me in that same way. Don't put the invitation out there and then just keep putting the invitation out there until you're really angry. No, instead put the invitation out there. Maybe do it a second time. And then after that and say, hey, I put the invitation out a couple times and I'm going to stand over here until you make a decision, because this isn't feeling balanced anymore. And if they have a tantrum and whatever, great. Because can you imagine how much worse it would have got later? Poof. Hey, I love you. I'm enjoying this, but I want to hear more about you. This seems to be all about me. What's going on? Well, that could be sucking me dry. That could be fear. That could be a whole bunch of things. The price of the admission is I got to feel I'm being filled back up. If I'm giving and I'm not feeling filled back up, that's the true price of admission at the end of all this. Balance. Being filled back up. Like if I'm giving from my excess and I'm loving, eventually all my excess is gone, and then they take from the 100% of me, and that's a lot of people's marriages. That's all this kind of stuff, where the price of admission is to give and receive, and it's like two fountains. Imagine them sitting next to each other, and their pools are overlapped, and if their fountain wasn't going on, I just keep filling up their pool. The water would be overflowing and it would be going in there, and eventually their pool would be overflowing and I'd be empty. But if they're both the same and they're both going at the same rate, guess what? The overflow of this one goes here and the overflow of this one goes into me. And guess what? I don't feel empty. I don't feel not met. I don't feel this perpetual inner child all curled up. I'm not good enough or whatever. Well, that's only going to come by you insisting. Now, unfortunately, we're programmed through beliefs and parental and all this societal conditioning and all these things to just keep giving because everybody else is too lazy to do their work. Well, I'm doing my work, and nobody deserves to have my work for free. But if you come in and you get in the pool with me and we splash around and we have a blast and we're feeling equal, I'll tell you anything. I'll share anything. But the return I get is thank you, smiles. Wow, you changed my life. Oh, this is such a blessing. That's the small price of admission. But that admission isn't just for me. That's for everybody. You share it out loud and say, holy shit, this is what I learned. Wow, this guy knows something. I learned something. Massive, massive exchange. And then everybody's getting fed by everybody. Can you imagine a whole bunch of fountains that are all around each other and everybody's splashing over into each other? The ones that pools are a little bit light or whatever, they're getting overflowed now so that they can come up faster. All by vulnerability, all by gratefulness, all by admitting when somebody's given you gifts or that you're feeding them when they're heavy or whatever. But a whole bunch of fountains that are overflowing, it's easy to have a few people that aren't overflowing fit in there and nobody be at a loss. And then eventually your fountain's going to be overflowing. And guess what? We can bring that out into our world. Look at it go into your families. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel much better. Oh, I feel like I can give. I can feel like I can be light for people. And you're getting fed by the group, but now your families and stuff are feeling a little bit of your overflow, and they're not vampiring you anymore. They're like, holy fuck, what's changing in my life? And I can't imagine how much easier this is because this person is in my life. This person has held me accountable. This person is whatever. That's what we're doing. We're meeting other people. We're inviting them to be in the pool, to feed each other from our excess. And if you're down on excess, simple things, grateful, thank you. Hey, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share some things. I want to see your wounds come up. And that feeds us all to know that somebody's willing to do the work, not willing to hurt anymore and willing to trust. That feeds the whole collective. People in fear, maybe your well's at 5% and you can't give anymore. Well, be from vulnerability, be from hurt, be from wounding. We as light beings, the minute that comes out, we transmute it and it fills our excess and we can fill you back up, even though it sounds like you're moaning and screaming and crying, because that's how fountains work. That's how lighthouses work. That's how light keepers work. That's the people that make an invitation. And once we're full, we can give. We can give to the whole world over and over and over again. Never going to feel empty. And then we're going to be fed by these people's expressions of pain and suffering so that they can be healed and they're gone, and then they can be a light again. It's just like washing. In Ho'oponopono, there's a prayer, and they talk about the Unahipili, which is our inner child, and how it needs to be washed away from eons of caked on dirt and muck. And as we're washing them with this fountain, we're a beautiful waterfall. They're coming underneath and it's breaking off, but we need to encourage them to open, because if they just sit there and the dirt comes off and then they're still raw and wounded underneath, without talking, without giving them the gifts, with the skills, the invitations to be just as vulnerable, to open wide, to scrub the skin a little bit and cry and let those wounds come out. You can't just wash it off. It's came from the inside. You plastered the muck on yourself to be hidden so that you wouldn't get hurt anymore. So the only way through is vulnerability, is to share with other people, to talk, to be in community, to love. That's the price of admission. That's the price of admission to investing in yourself, to being all in so that you can move forward and the light's going to shine out of you. And I know every single one of you, all these people that are on the call and responding, they're light keepers. They're people that are going through the shit, riding it every day, have been sucked dry sometimes, didn't know what was wrong, what was whatever, and really hurt sometimes, because we're trying to shine this light into people that a lot aren't ready. But we forgot the really key things. It has to be an exchange. There has to be value given, even if it's mucky dirt coming back and crying and complaining. But projecting, wounding, triggering, traumatizing, all this kind of shit is unacceptable, because that's people that aren't willing to do the work. But somebody that's traumatizing, you can stand up to them and say, excuse me, little girl, you're not going to do that anymore because you're not helping anyone. And they're just like, wow, somebody's being a mother, somebody's being a father, somebody's holding me accountable. And that may be where it ends, for a month, a year, whatever. But they will always remember that accountability. Remember that you held them clear in what the fuck they're doing. And that's the price of admission. So if you do it different, and you expect it to come back, and you hold people accountable and all this kind of stuff, rather than just feeling like you've been used, it feeds back, because people will come to that and it's like, oh, I can really, this light's really, really bright, and I can see these shitty things that are in my eyes and I can pick them out so I can heal, because that light's really pure. But if it's a light that's like, oh, I'm going to suck you dry, and hey, I'm a hero, I'm an ego, I'm a guru or whatever, but oh, my little kid is hurting and I'm just going to pull this out from underneath you. That's a lot of the healers, the people that we've been dealing with in the past. But the people that are in integrity are the people that are standing here right now, looking in my eyes. Do I want to hide anything? I'll share a gritty experience with you. But if I got to share gritty experiences with you, I'm gonna hold you accountable. And that'll scare the hell out of people. It's like, ooh, you're gonna talk to me directly. You're going to share stuff with me and reflect for me. Oh, what the hell's the use of me taking your shit if I'm not going to shine it back into you so that you eventually shine back? That's the integrity of these people. That's the people that are standing up for themselves, are standing in truth, and magic's happening. So if you got any questions, let me know. But your life standing with the price of admission and holding people accountable and not just freely giving all day long. And it's not talking about charging for your services. It's about being there, being accountable, asking questions, asking people's intentions, getting it out on the table, and either they'll walk away or they'll be like pulled into even more. And then they're going to rapidly be in balance with you. But the ones that you call out are going to run away and hide. And it's a trigger for them. It's a gift for them. Some will never come back and say, oh, you whatever the fuck it is. And I've seen it a lot lately. Little tiny little people in business and stuff like that are all in their inner child, and you start holding them accountable on their actions, and they'll lie and they say, hey, I always paid you on time, and where the fuck do you get off charging this much, and where do that, and it's like, fuck you, goodbye, good riddance. Very, very clear clues. If they're coming back and they want to hurt you and smash you and whatever, they're not on your side. They're sucking you dry. You know who you are. And it's nobody on this Facebook page, but it's so sickening and disgusting to see people when they're that out of integrity and they want to blame you for everything and spite their face and cut it off and all this kind of stuff just to make you wrong and bad and ugly. Fuck off. So, and you know those people. Just tell them to fuck off right here and right now, and life will move on. Start fresh. Start with a new standard. It's kind of like the where do you jump over backwards as part of the track and field or whatever. Well, we just raised the bar. Before it was on the ground. Anybody could walk over. Nobody with any skills, whatever, could just walk in and just be slime or darkness or whatever. Well, now the bar is here. You have to have done this much work to come into my life. Because you just come into my life and I'd reject you or you'd reject me eventually. I don't need the drama anymore. So here's my bar. That's your price of admission. What's yours? Try it. You're going to be surprised. Loving you all. Thank you for everybody's comments. Neville, Diane, Zana. Did I miss anybody? I think that's everyone. Love you all. Have a great day. Watch for an Awakening Through Sexuality one that's going to be really deep and intimate. Probably around one mountain or between 1 and 2 somewhere, whenever it flows. Love you all. Talk to you soon.